Alright. Hey guys, it's been a while since we were in Guardians of Ember. Reason for that is, hasn't been much come out or any new stuff go on with Guardians of Ember. But about 2 days ago, we recently got an update. It's a development update. Actually, basically they gave us a new roadmap and explained a little bit about what's been going on and why they haven't released any new content. The reason for the lack of new content was all of the crash to desktops that they were having. Basically, they stopped all new development on content and features to fix those crash to desktops, which is greatly appreciated. I know it's helped a lot of guys out. So they say they've reduced those by about 90%, and now that they have those reduced, they're going to start focusing back on content and features. The guys at Insel Games have said that while the developers were working on crashes, they were actually testing the Horde mode, which is a game mode that I've been looking forward to. It was actually supposed to launch last month, and then they pushed it back a little bit. I actually pushed it back about a month, and it's now supposed to come out this month. I'm not gonna hold my breath or anything until it's actually in, until I actually download that patch that has that in game. They've also stated that they've been kind of trying to split the game between an ARPG and an MMO, and they've kind of shifted more towards an MMO focus because it is a server-based game, and it makes it difficult to speed up the gameplay. So they've started focusing a lot of aspects towards that MMO feel. So basically, what we've got for the short term. So these are their objectives for the next 2 months. So we're looking at June and July. Number 1 on the list was the Horde mode, which was supposed to be out last month. They're still saying it's going to be out in the next few weeks. Again, wouldn't hold my breath on that one until you actually see that patch or download that patch. They have said that one of the big changes they made to the Horde mode was that it originally had been made to be a high level, so kind of like an end game thing for max level characters. They've since changed that, so now you're going to be able to start taking advantage of Horde mode starting at level 10, and they've actually added player scaling to it. So if you jump in at level 10, they're actually going to boost your stats. So you'll get an HP boost, a damage boost, and an armor boost, which is going to buff you up to max level. So you can go ahead and start enjoying that content at level 10. They've also added achievements. I actually think those are already in the game. Yeah, those are already in the game. So the Horde mode achievements are already in game. And it looks like they're also adding a new type of currency tied in with Horde mode called honor points, which they're going to let us exchange at a special vendor for some unique items. I'll be really interested to see what those items are. I have a feeling it's more than likely just going to be some cosmetic stuff. They also say that they're going to bring that level boosting, level buffing system that's in Horde mode. They're going to also bring that to the unranked PvP, which is going to be great, because now maybe we'll actually be able to do some PvP. Since the population is so small, maybe that with this buff, it's going to bring more players into the PvPs, because essentially we'll all be kind of in the same group together now, instead of kind of spread out over the levels. The next thing, keeping in line with their new focus on the MMO aspect and strengthening that MMO aspect of the game, is the crafting. Currently, crafting starts at level 40, which if you play other MMOs is a ridiculous amount of time to have to wait to start crafting. I don't know any other MMOs that make you wait until that far into the game to start crafting. What they're going to do now is they are reducing the level requirement on crafting down to 15. So we're going to actually be able to start crafting at level 15. The next thing on their list is the current group experience distribution. Not familiar with this since I haven't done a lot of group play outside of the max level content that I've done. But apparently the way the XP distribution works is the players who have more aggro on the mobs actually get more experience instead of it kind of being equally split among the group. So that allows DPS classes who do more damage and generate more aggro, they're able to get more experience. So it kind of ends up excluding those tank and healer classes because they don't do as much damage, and generally the healer classes focus on trying to not generate aggro because you don't want those mobs chasing you. So that getting redone is going to be a big help to group play and kind of entice people to group up a little bit more. The next thing, also keeping in line with the MMO aspect, is a dungeon finder tool, or a LFG. A lot of us have been asking for this for a little while, but with the group XP stuff, I guess it didn't really make sense. But now they say they're in the process of developing that right now. And they're hoping to have that launched in July. They're also working on a guild skill system, which is supposed to come out in July as well. And then, of course, they're finalizing some German localizations of Act 3 and 4, and they have Act 5 expected for next month on that German localization. They're also working on a Spanish UI and skills, so they're almost done with that, and they're going to start on the localization of Acts 1 and 2 in Spanish, and they have began working on the French UI and skills, and they're going to start working on a full localization for French after they get the UI and skills done. The next thing on their short term, which was recently brought up and is currently being discussed on the forums right now, is a rework to the Iron Hero mode, which what Iron Hero does, it kind of gives you a buff that it limits you from partying up and grouping up with other players, and all you get in return for that really at this point in the game is titles. So you get a couple titles, but you lose your ability to group up with other players. So they're talking to the community about how we would like to see that reworked and what we would like out of that. So that's all of their short-term goals for June and July. That's going to push us into their midterm, which is the fall. So the following months after that, the first thing on their list for that, of course, is Act 6. So it looks like they're going to be releasing Act 6 this fall, which is also going to increase the level cap. After that, they're looking at doing some hardcore difficulty for dungeons. Dungeons already have a hard mode, but they're looking at doing, I guess, maybe a step above that. They're going to call it hardcore, which is going to get us some more new loot and some new item rarities. The next thing on the list is ranked PvP. This one I'm on the fence with the ranked PvP because currently unranked PvP doesn't really work. So I don't see the point in having a ranked PvP system yet until they get the unranked PvP system working. And once they get unranked PvP working and the player population increases to a point where it would support doing ranked PvP, then yeah, go ahead and add in ranked PvP. But until then, I kind of feel like that's something they can hold off on for just a little bit. The next thing on the midterm is an endless tower, which could be interesting. So it's going to allow for some challenge stages and unique items. Now my concern with that is that they're going to call it an endless tower, and it's only going to have, you know, maybe 10 floors to the tower, or 100 floors to the tower. Like there's a lot of other games that have stuff that they call endless, and of course it's not endless. There's an end to it. And when I say end to it, I mean there's a definite stopping point. It's not the end is as far as your character can go. So that could be interesting if they implement it right. And they're also asking for more suggestions for what we as the community would like to see for endgame. Which is pretty interesting for them to be asking us what we want to see in game. And they've actually been listening to a lot of our suggestions here lately. One other thing that they are talking about redoing is the item shop. A lot of us have been complaining that, you know, we're paying real money at random chances for a good item. You know, like if you look at you look at the pet orb, you don't get a permanent pet with that. You get a random chance at a permanent pet. I mean, I would pay, you know, 3, 4, 5 times that to get a guaranteed chance at that pet. So they're looking at reworking the whole item shop to kind of make it less RNG based, because some players are extremely lucky, and then other players like myself are completely unlucky. I know players who've used their Empire coins and got permanent mounts, permanent pets from Empire coins, and barely used any Empire coins. You know, maybe 200 or 300 Empire coins and got those, and I've turned in I don't know how many hundreds upon hundreds of Empire coins, and I never really get anything outside of a gold boost potion or an experience boost potion, which at max level an experience boost potion doesn't do anything for me. Next thing brings us to their long-term goals. So these are some objectives that they want to accomplish, but they haven't really set a time on those. First on their list for that is native gamepad support. Again, this is one I'm not really a big fan of. I'm probably not going to play it with a gamepad. It's an action RPG MMO hybrid. I feel like it should be played with a keyboard and mouse. I know some players would like to be able to play it with a controller. That's fine. I just don't feel like that should be a focus right now. I feel like their focus should be on new, fresh content and features to the game. Their next thing is further platforms and stores. Again, I see it being extremely beneficial to the community, especially if they do cross-platform play. So go ahead and launch it on, you know, Mac and Linux if it's not there yet. And I'm pretty sure by cross-platform they're also talking about consoles, which is fine. You know, go ahead and launch it on those. But again, that's going to tie in with the console one is going to tie in with the native gamepad support. Their stores, I'm assuming they're talking about like the PlayStation Store and the the Microsoft Store for Xbox. And the only other store I can really think of that's real big on PC might be the GOG store, or Epic's Origin, or not Epic's Origin, but EA's Origin. Again, I feel like that's a back burner subject. further languages. I'm all for that one. It gets more players into the game. And at this point, those of us who play the game understand that it's time for them to start doing something to drive more players to the game. The community is getting smaller and smaller, and part of that's because they were focused on the bugs for so long. They weren't releasing new content, so players completed everything that was there, and then just kind of moved on to something else. Next one on their long-term list is new PvP modes and maps. Again, I haven't got to do any of the PvP modes and maps because there's just not the player base to do the PvP modes. So again, that should be one they would focus on, I would hope, after they get the unranked PvP system fixed and working sufficiently enough for us to experience that content. And then, you know, possibly after they do the ranked PvP. Next will be the auction house. I've had several discussions in game with different players on the auction house. I see an auction house as being beneficial as long as there's content to put on the auction house. Right now, if they implemented an auction house in the game, there would be nothing on the auction house outside of trading cards, the collector cards, and crafted items, because probably 90% of the items that drop in the game are bind on pickup. So again, there's no point in using development resources on an auction house at this point in the game. And then of course their final thing, the long-term goals, is additional skill slots. And I don't understand why they have that listed as a long-term goal. They already have 2 additional skill slots in the game right here on the bottom. They stare at you every time you log in, but they're locked. All they have to do is unlock those 2 skill slots. Let me use them. They're already there. And I feel like 8 skills would be more than enough for this game. You know, other games like Guild Wars, the original Guild Wars, only had 8 skills, and it worked great. It allowed for different builds, different types of gameplay. So 8 skills is plenty. There's no need for more skills than those 8. Just go ahead and unlock those last 2 skill slots, and let us use those. Let us take advantage of those. And then of course they have to toss down at the end, that's, you know, those things listed above, any dates, all that's subject to change. Again, the big things though, are horde mode is still on the table. They're saying it's going to be in the next few weeks. It was supposed to launch May 23rd. They pushed it back a month to June 23rd, and now they're saying in the next few weeks. I'm really hoping it's the end of this coming week, because I sure could use some new content, something new to do. Again, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot me a comment. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.